Welcome to my channel Mintage Mysteries, where every coin has a hidden story. If you love discovering hidden treasures and uncovering coin secrets, you're in the right place. We're on a quest to solve the puzzles behind the world's most fascinating coins. From rare errors to legendary rarities, let's dive into the mysteries of numismatics. In 2015, the Canadian cent existed only in memory, in collections, and in old savings jars, yet its long history remained an important part of Canada's numismatic and economic development. Although the Royal Canadian Mint had ended its production in 2012 and removed it from circulation shortly afterward, the coin continued to attract attention in 2015 from historians, collectors, and ordinary Canadians who had lived with it for generations. Its disappearance invited a closer look at how its composition and design had evolved over more than a century and a half, and how these changes reflected shifts in technology, economy, and national identity. The cent story began in the mid-19th century, when the province of Canada needed a standardized small-denomination coin to replace the mix of foreign and colonial tokens circulating at the time. The first cents, issued in 1858 and struck in England before Canada had its own mint, were large bronze coins containing mostly copper with smaller amounts of tin and zinc. They were designed to be durable and easily recognizable, and their reddish-brown surface quickly became associated with everyday trade. When the Royal Canadian Mint opened in 1908, production shifted to Canada, and the cent continued to serve as a stable unit of exchange in a growing economy. The composition of the cent changed repeatedly as metal costs rose and minting techniques improved. The original bronze formula continued for decades until the late 1970s, when the price of copper made production increasingly expensive. In 1982, the mint adopted a copper-plated zinc core, dramatically reducing the amount of pure copper used while preserving the familiar appearance of the coin. This change marked a turning point. Canadians could still visually identify the cent, but the coin was no longer the nearly solid copper piece it had been for over a century. Then in 1997, another shift occurred, replacing the zinc core with a steel core plated in copper. Steel, being more economical and easier to source, made it possible to keep minting cents despite rising material costs, though it gave the coin a slightly different weight and magnetic property that coin collectors noticed immediately. By the early 21st century, the cent had become more symbolic than economic, and the cost of producing it exceeded its face value. These realities led to the final production run in 2012, after which the mint stopped making them entirely. The design of the cent changed far less frequently than its composition and became one of the most easily recognized pieces of Canadian currency. The reverse side, featuring two maple leaves on a single twig, was first introduced in 1937. Created by George Edward Kruger Gray, the design was intended to provide a modern, distinctly Canadian emblem at a time when multiple denominations were being redesigned. Its balanced simplicity made it both elegant and durable, able to withstand decades of use without losing clarity. Over the years, the engraving was refined as minting equipment improved, but the essential elements, the paired leaves, the curve of the twig, and the spacing of the lettering, remained constant. It became one of the most enduring images in Canadian coinage and a symbol closely tied to the national identity. The obverse of the cent reflected Canada's constitutional monarchy and changed with each new official portrait of the reigning sovereign. By the time the cent approached the end of its circulating life, it carried the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II created by Canadian artist Susanna Blunt. This portrait, introduced in 2003, represented a stylistic shift from earlier crown depictions. The Queen appeared without a crown, an intentional decision to present her in a dignified yet approachable manner. The portrait was rendered with a modern, realistic style, and its smooth surfaces and careful contours were designed to strike cleanly on the increasingly thin copper-plated steel planchets. By 2015, the cent had already completed its transition from circulating currency to historical artifact. Canadians were rounding cash transactions, yet discussions about the coin's legacy were common, especially among collectors who explored varieties such as early Victorian cents, the 1920 reduction in size, and the composition transitions of the late 20th century. The coin's absence also highlighted how integral it had been in daily life, used in childhood savings, charity drives, school projects, and small everyday purchases. In that year, the cent was no longer simply a discontinued coin, but a symbol of changing economic realities and of a national history expressed through metal and design. Even without new minting, the Canadian cent in 2015 continued to represent more than its monetary value. Its long evolution in composition reflected the pressures of global metal markets and technological capability, while its enduring design connected generations through a shared visual symbol. The coin's disappearance encouraged Canadians to reflect on how something so ordinary had quietly shaped their experience of money, national imagery, and everyday life for over 150 years. In 2015, the Canadian cent no longer existed as an actively minted coin, and this absence gave rise to a unique situation in which collectors and the general public perceived certain cents as rare or potentially valuable, even though number 2015 dated cent was ever produced. The coin had been discontinued in 2012, and by 2015 the remaining pieces in circulation or storage had begun to take on new meaning. People who previously considered the coin insignificant started to wonder whether the last years of the cent or older historic versions might carry increased value. This shift in attention created a marketplace where condition, composition, and specific dates played a far greater role in determining rarity and desirability. The idea of a 2015 Canadian cent itself contributed to confusion and speculation. Because no coins with that date were minted, any cent falsely attributed to that year circulated as a rumor among inexperienced collectors. The absence of a 2015 issue sometimes led to misunderstandings in online listings or discussions, where people imagined that a 2015 cent, if it existed, would be extremely rare and therefore valuable. In truth, the only cents that held significant value in 2015 were those from earlier years with recognized scarcity, varieties, or minting errors. Nevertheless, the non-existence of the 2015 cent created a sense of intrigue that kept collectors engaged in the broader history of the denomination. The cents that actually gained attention in 2015 were those whose rarity derived from low mintage figures, unusual metal compositions, or distinctive die errors. Early Victorian cents remained among the most sought-after pieces, especially those with clear details, original surfaces, and minimal wear. Their value stemmed not only from age but also from the fact that many early coins were heavily used, making well-preserved examples genuinely scarce. Collectors in 2015 also paid close attention to cents from transitional years, such as those struck in 1920 when the coin size was reduced, or those from the 1982 and 1997 composition changes. These transitional periods sometimes produced struck-through pieces, double dies, or off-metal strikes, and such errors, even when subtle, were capable of commanding strong interest. Cents from the final years of production also garnered new value during 2015. Although they were minted in large quantities, people began setting them aside shortly after the discontinuation announcement. Uncirculated rolls from 2012 became appealing because they represented the end of a long-standing national coinage tradition. Their value did not stem from true rarity so much as from symbolism and completeness, as collectors sought to preserve the last official issue. High-grade examples certified by professional grading services were especially desirable, since perfect or near-perfect strikes of modern coins remain uncommon due to the handling methods used in mass circulation. Another factor that influenced perceived rarity and value in 2015 was the gradual removal of cents from everyday use. Many Canadians returned their coins to banks during withdrawal campaigns, and others simply left them in jars without much thought, unintentionally creating a situation in which certain dates became less visible. This scarcity in circulation sometimes led people to believe specific years were rare, even if mintage figures told a different story. Collectors evaluating the market during this period often had to explain that the scarcity of finding a coin in pocket change did not necessarily translate into actual rarity. Despite the excitement surrounding the cent in 2015, genuine high-value examples almost always belonged to the well-documented categories recognized by numismatists: early dates in exceptional condition, pieces with significant minting errors, or coins from years with confirmed low production. The lack of a 2015 cent itself contributed indirectly to this interest by encouraging people to explore the broader history of the denomination. Many who began searching for cents expecting valuable finds instead discovered the fascination of studying die varieties, metal changes, and historic minting practices. In 2015, the Canadian cent existed not as an active currency but as a collectible piece woven into the fabric of the nation's history. Its rarity did not come from a single non-existent date, but from a long legacy of changing materials, evolving designs, and the unpredictable survival of coins that endured more than a century of circulation. The values attached to these pieces reflected not only numismatic scarcity but also the nostalgia and cultural significance that the cent held for generations of Canadians. If you enjoyed today's exploration, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more coin discoveries, and share this video with fellow collectors. And as always, keep searching for those hidden treasures in your change. You never know when you might stumble upon the next big mystery.